I expose the sinister truth of 7 haunted gods who kneel before humans and their cursed bargains. The night was thick with an unsettling chill as Sarah drove home from the diner, exhaustion weighing heavy on her bones. Her headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the crumbling walls of rosewood. Symbols twisted, jagged, and unnervingly familiar leered back at her. Graffiti that felt like warning signs scribbled in desperation. Her heart raced every time she passed them, a bone-deep fear creeping through her mind. Shadows flickered in her headlights. But it was just a trick of the light, right? Sarah shook her head, scolding herself. She was a mother first, a protector. Mia and Ben slept soundly at home, blissfully unaware of the decay around them. But lately, the neighborhood felt haunted. Conversations between her friends cracked and splintered, laughter warped into something fearful, their eyes darting like prey. It gnawed at her, a sensation that something sinister was encroaching. As she stepped into her cramped apartment, the weight of dread tightened around her throat. Mia lay curled in her bed, but Ben's room, it felt like a dense fog of terror lingered there. She tiptoed to the door, opened it, and found Ben thrashing in a nightmare. His face was pale, beads of sweat clung to his forehead. Her heart sank. What had invaded his dreams? Ben, wake up! She shook his shoulder, and he bolted upright, eyes wide and terrified. Mommy, they were calling me, he exclaimed, shaking like a leaf. The men in the masks, they wanted me to kneel. A visceral chill raced down Sarah's spine. What men? Her mind flashed back to the diner, to the patrons whispering over greasy plates about a politician's grotesque dealings. Power and sacrifice coursed through their muffled voices like a bloody tide. Don't listen to them, she whispered, her voice trembling. When she got to work the next night, she overheard 2 customers probing into a disturbing conversation. 7 gods, one said, his whisper like ice. They take what they want, and families around here are easy prey. Sacrifices for prosperity, the other added, glancing nervously around the diner. The politician's been offering them up like candy. Sarah felt the world tilt. Panic surged through her veins. Were they talking about her? About families like hers? The random symbols she dismissively categorized as graffiti now bent her reality. A warning, perhaps, painted by those who survived the terror. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Families were disappearing, one by one. She kept her eyes peeled, her heart racing, searching the familiar faces for signs of madness. They were not themselves, consumed by whispers in dark corners. The signs, the symbols, they were everywhere, heralds of ancient gods kneeling, waiting for something to be given. When she returned home, her breath hitched as she found a dark figure lurking on her porch, shadows wrapped in secrets. Don't avoid the truth, Sarah, the figure hissed, voice dripping like sticky poison. Every choice has a consequence. A shiver slithered down her spine. As she faced the figure, the air around her thickened, the darkness threatening to engulf her world. She felt the weight of the cursed bargain looming over her fragile family. With dread, she realized her fight was just beginning. What nightmare lay ahead, and could she really save her children from the depths of darkness? Sarah stared at the figure, heart hammering in her chest. The porch light flickered like a dying breath, casting jagged shadows across the figure's face. It was a man, or at least he had the shape of one. His features were obscured by a dark hood, and the glint of his eyes glowed an unnatural hue that seemed to pull her in. Who are you? She managed to whisper, voice trembling as the wind howled past her, snatching her words away. Names are unimportant, he replied, a chilling smile revealing teeth that shone sharper than any blade. What matters is what you're willing to offer. Every family in this town, they know the price. Sarah's stomach churned. What did he mean? The knots of dread spiraled tighter. I want to offer anything, she stammered, trying to summon strength, but her mind raced back to Ben's terrified face, Mia's innocent sleep. The figure leaned closer, the darkness wrapping around him like a cloak of despair. You will. They all do. The 7 gods are hungry, and their hunger must be sated. He paused, eyes narrowing. Or your children will suffer. Get away from my family. The words burst out, each one spoken with fierce defiance, yet her voice shook. The man's laughter echoed off the porch walls, a hollow sound devoid of warmth. Do you think shouts and screams can protect you? You've already been marked. He pointed a finger, and Sarah felt a cold pressure building in her chest, a darkness pushing against her heart. Your complacency has sealed your fate. Suddenly, the wind picked up, rattling the kitchen windows behind her, and she stumbled back. Could this be real? Her mind spun. She recalled the symbols. Had she unwittingly walked into a trap? The figures stood firm, every smirk a reminder of the curse looming over Rosewood. Tick-tock, Sarah. Time waits for no one. With a surge of instinct, she slammed the door shut, locking it tight. Breathing heavily, she pressed her back against it, staring into the dim light of the room, filled with silent echoes. The air felt thick, oppressive. What choice did she have? Fear strangled her thoughts as she turned toward the hallway. She needed to check on her children. Every instinct screamed for her to run, to protect them. As she stepped lightly down the hallway, the walls felt alive, whispering her name, mocking her. In Ben's room, he was quiet now, breath steady. Relief surged through Sarah, but it was short-lived. The shadows across his face flickered, as if something from the corner of the room watched her. It was everywhere. She felt a pulse, a heartbeat like a drum, drawing her closer. Then she whispered, reaching for him. But her hand paused midair. The whispered chants she'd overheard slipped into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a vice. They kneel before you. A voice drifted through the air, a sibilant whisper floating through the cracks of sanity, echoing in the silence. What did it mean? Instinctively, she turned, looking for the source, but saw nothing. The room felt alive with dread, and she was losing control. She needed to make a choice, and fast. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the living room, breaking the intense silence. The sound cut through her like a knife. Raw panic flooded her veins. Stay here, she hissed at Ben, desperately racing to check the source of the noise. With every step, the floorboards creaked under her weight. Shadows stretched and morphed, clawing at her while she moved toward the doorway. As she rounded the corner, the sight left her breathless. Her living room was engulfed in swirling darkness. In the center, the shadows danced, forming shapes that writhed and twisted, mocking her every fear. An ancient, guttural chant filled the air, wrapping around her throat like a noose. The symbols crawled on the walls, glowing ominously, as if they were alive and demanding something from her. The figures' words echoed again. Every choice has a consequence. Sarah, heart racing, took a step back. What did they want? What were they going to take? She could feel the walls closing in, and a chilling realization washed over her. The gods were calling. The bargain was brewing. As the shadows twisted closer, she knew time was running out, but still, she refused to kneel. I want tea, she screamed, but the darkness only drew nearer. And then came the whispers, sharp, insistent, unraveling her grip on reality. Will you protect your children, or will you join us? The choice lay before her like a knife's edge, and as the shadows lunged, Sarah braced herself for the inevitable. What was she truly willing to sacrifice? The darkness surged, ready to engulf her whole, and then, everything went black. Sarah gasped, lunging against the darkness that threatened to swallow her. The pressure inside her chest exploded into a searing pain, making her scream. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst forth, piercing the shadows around her like a dagger, making them recoil. She stumbled back, eyes wide, clutching her chest as she blinked against the brilliance. The light condensed into a figure, a woman, dressed in flowing white, with long hair that danced like mist in a gentle breeze. Her face was serene, but there was a weight to her demeanor, a presence that commanded both fear and respect. Do not be afraid, the woman spoke, her voice both soothing and urgent. I am a messenger, a protector of those who seek to break the curse. Break the curse? Sarah gasped, though a part of her feared knowing what that truly meant. Worry gnawed at her as her thoughts darted back to Ben and Mia, alone and vulnerable. Yes, the messenger replied, stepping closer, the brightness illuminating Sarah's face. But it requires immense courage and sacrifice. Sarah's heart raced. Courage? Sacrifice? What did that even mean? She barely understood what was happening. All she wanted was to protect her family. Listen closely. The messenger continued, her expression shifting to one of solemnity. The seven gods are not mere myth. They feed on fear and despair. Every family that has offered something in act of malice, a grave secret, strengthens their power. You can refuse, but know that your children will pay the price. The words hit Sarah like a blow. What's their price? She demanded, mean and fierce, desperation dawning with each frantic heartbeat. The messenger hesitated, her eyes flickering with sadness. They will twist your children's souls, drawing them deeper into darkness until they are no longer innocent. No, Sarah cried, shaking her head violently, the dread curling into fierce resolve. I won't let that happen. Then you must confront the darkness yourself. Find the altar where they dwell upon the hill. There lies the key to unbinding their hold over you and your family. The woman extended her hand, revealing a small, intricately carved stone. This will guide you. But once you initiate the binding, there is no turning back. You will face what you fear the most. The light around her began to pulse, the shadows inching closer again. Sarah felt the grip of panic tighten. What if I fail? Failure is not an option. The messenger's voice echoed as her form began to dissipate. You are stronger than you know, but time is against you. With one last blink of pure radiance, the woman vanished, and Sarah found herself alone once again. The shadows crept back at the edges of her vision, hushed whispers churning the air with an urgency that clawed at her sanity. Ben, Mia, she called, rushing back towards the hallway, her pulse thrumming in her ears. The house felt thick with dread and malevolence. The light from the living room pulsed as she darted into Ben's room. Mom. Ben's voice pulled her from the edge of despair. He sat up, eyes wide, innocence fading as the darkness inched unrelentingly toward them. Stay close to me. Sarah's voice broke as she turned, the smell of smoke wafting in from the living room, thick and bitter. She grabbed Ben's hand, her heart pounding. Every second felt like an eternity. Mia's in her crib. Ben cried, panic breaking through. I think she is scared. The shadows lunged from the corners of the room, much more than just the familiar shapes. They drew in a swirl, arms stretched, claws outstretched, shrieking with 1,000 voices, echoing the ancestors of lost souls. Stay behind me, Sarah barked, pulling Ben close. They had to get Mia. Racing against time, they charged down the hallway. Each pulse of darkness felt like a breath on their necks, like a warning. The shadows sang a sinister hymn, promising torment and despair. Grab the stone. Go to the hill. Every word echoed in her mind, every heartbeat merging into the chant of the gods. It was now or never. She refused to abandon her children to these horrors. As they reached the nursery, her breath hitched. Mia, she screamed, the door creaking open to reveal nothing but silence. But then, above the crib, shadows writhed. What had happened to her baby? With dread coiling in her gut, she turned to find the darkness had new designs and the faces of the seven gods were emerging from within the shadowy void. Join us, they beckoned, or lose them forever. What would she choose as the ink of fate bled across the floor? Sarah's heart raced as the voices curled around her, chilling her to the bone. She looked up, horrified, at the writhing shadows that dripped from the ceiling, forming distorted faces that twisted into grotesque smiles. Each was more haunting than the last, sporting eyes that glowed with malice. Choose, the gods sang, their voices chilling and harmonious, a macabre lullaby that tugged at her sanity. Join us in darkness, or your children suffer. Desperation clawed at her throat. You want to take them, she shouted, the sound echoing through the nursery like a gunshot. In her mind's eye, Mia's tiny form was precious and pure, a beacon of light that couldn't dim. The shadows pulsed, igniting the fear deep within her. We can offer them power, protection, freedom, they crooned, their tones hollow, luring her in like a serpent. But only if you surrender to us. No, she shrieked, but vulnerability seeped into her voice. She was done running. She had to fight. Show us your strength, mortal, a deeper voice boomed, rising from the throng of darkness. A figure, massive and towering, stepped forward. Its form flickered between ethereal and corporeal, like a reflection seen through rippling water. Face your own shadows. Ben clutched at her side, shaking. His fright mirrored hers, a reflection of raw, unfiltered terror. "Mom, what do we do?" His voice was small, but steadied at her reassurance. "Hold on to me, Ben. Whatever happens, don't let go." The gods advanced, the darkness swirling around them, icy tendrils wrapping around her ankles in a vice-like grip. Dread seeped in, painting the edges of her vision black as memories surged forward, times of laughter, of arguments, of moments that felt too heavy to bear. Secrets she buried deep, shame and regret, came rushing forth, threatening to drown her. "Enough!" she roared, forcing herself to remain upright. She remembered the glowing stone, the only light in this consuming void. She fumbled in her pocket, fingers closing around the cool surface. The intricate carvings felt alive, throbbing against her palm. "Do you dare use that?" they hissed, the malicious joy palpable. The shadows undulated, the gods taking a step back as if the stone was a weapon. Sarah clenched the stone, feeling its warmth seep into her skin. "I see you," she shouted, and her voice echoed, defiance rising like a wave. "I see the fear you thrive upon." As she raised the stone, white light erupted from it, a powerful blaze. The darkness recoiled, hissing and screeching, as if burnt by the very light of truth. Shadows tore away from her, revealing the nursery once more, white walls tinged with hues of blue, sunbeams streaming through the window. "Mia!" she screamed again, frantically scanning the crib. The shadows trembled, seeping from the corners, still grasping for her children. Then, a soft wail broke through the haze. Relief washed over her. Mia lay there unharmed, perched on the edge of consciousness between sleep and reality. "Got you!" Sarah cried and rushed to the crib, reaching for her daughter. As her fingers brushed against the soft fabric of the blanket, the stone flared brightly, illuminating the room. But the joy was short-lived. Shadowy forms lunged towards her, angry and relentless. "You cannot escape," they yelled, their voices like thunder, low and booming. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, gripping both the stone and Mia tightly against her chest. "What you offer is what we desire," they hissed, a whisper laced with venom. "A sacrifice for a sacrifice." The world around her started to shake, the walls quivering as darkness clawed at reality itself. "Join us. Become one with the shadows." The man's voice of the malevolent echoed in her mind, mixing with her frantic heartbeat. She was losing ground. The stone's light pulsed, flickering dangerously. "What if I refuse?" she whispered, doubt worming its way into her mind. The faces of the 7 gods blurred into one, grinning. "Then your children pay the price." She could feel the darkness tightening around her, a frigid storm closing in. The stone flickered ominously, a fight for control over her very soul was about to begin. "Do you dare fight your own heart?" The challenge hung heavy in the air, the darkness ready to make her choice for her, to make her avoid the consequences of facing the truth. What would she sacrifice to save her children? Time was racing, and she was running out. With one final breath, she prepared to plunge into the dark. Would she unravel the mystery, or would the gods claim everything she held dear? The light from the stone flickered as if it sensed her uncertainty, dimming under the weight of her fear. Shadows swirled around her like an angry tempest, seeking to drown out the brilliance. The air itself seemed charged with malevolence. Every breath Sarah took filled with the stench of decay and despair. The very walls trembled, warping, as twisted faces and gnarled fingers clawed at her resolve. "Mia, hold on tight," Sarah shouted, desperate. She could feel her daughter's tiny body pressed against hers, her soft breaths steadying them both even in this chaos. "Mom, I'm scared," Ben cried, his voice trembling and small. "I know, honey, but I need you to be brave for your sister." As she spoke, she tightened her grip on the stone, willing its light to shine ever brighter. But doubt gnawed at her, threatening to tear her apart. Was this all a cruel game? Sacrifice for a sacrifice, the gods' voices echoed in her mind, slithering like snakes. "What will it be, Sarah?" The shadows twisted and contorted, covering every wall. Each grotesque face smiled wickedly, celebrating her fear. "What if you had to choose? Who would you save, your son or your daughter?" The question wrapped around her like a steel noose, squeezing her heart until it ached. "Stop. Just stop," she screamed, the words bursting from her throat raw and primal. I want to play your game. As she shouted, the stone's light surged, pushing back against the darkness. The figures faltered, shadows wavering as the radiant glow grew stronger, illuminating parts of the nursery hidden in shadow. For a fleeting moment, Sarah could see the remnants of her happy life, the walls adorned with crayon drawings, the gentle sway of Mia's mobile innocence painted starkly against the encroaching shadows. Yes, the revelation gave her strength. I refuse to choose. You can't make me. The shadows hissed, recoiling at her defiance, but a deeper anger swelled. You think you can deny us? The choice is always there, mortal. You are far more fragile than you believe. Vibrating with rage, Sarah powered through, the stone illuminating more of the room. You're nothing but fear. I want to be broken by you. With that, the stone burst forth a blinding beam of light, the radiance pushing against the darkness. It roared and howled, the angry voices fractured and disarrayed, but Sarah stood firm. Her resolve fused with the power of the stone, a force that repelled the shadows threatening to consume them. Yet still, they clawed at her ankles, dragging her deeper into the abyss. You can only delay the inevitable. They shrieked, anger simmering through their ethereal forms. Ben trembled beside her, and she could feel him clutching at her leg, petrified. Mom, I don't understand. What do they want? I don't know, sweetheart, she whispered, straining against the violent pull of the darkness. But I want to give in. Suddenly, a new voice echoed through the chaos, a voice wrapped in despair and sorrow. Mom, it was Mia's faint cry, soft yet somehow crystal clear. The sound pierced through the swirling shadows, unfurling into a ghostly whisper that affected the very fabric of reality. Come to me, the light from the stone pulsed, flickering in response to Mia's voice, beckoning Sarah to consider the very thing she had sworn to protect. Her focus wavered, uncertainty creeping back into her mind. Sarah, the malevolent figures hissed, their eyes flashing dangerously. Choose now or lose all forever. The temperature plummeted, the nursery's warmth evaporating in an icy breath. Sarah felt the impending dread wrap around her like a shroud. If the darkness consumed everything she held dear, what would she become? Who would she be if she lost her children in this horrifying choice? With each beat of her heart, the nursery trembled, the shadows closing in, encroaching on her being. The light of the stone dimmed as doubt seeped back into her thoughts, gripping her tighter than the shadows. Choose, the gods sang once more, their voices a sinister melody that thrummed in her ears. And as the world around her began to distort, warping into a nightmarish landscape, Sarah stood on the precipice of irrevocable decision. What will she sacrifice? In that moment, reality twisted, a portal to another realm emerging amidst the darkness, an abyss where truth meets horror. She braced herself, unsure of where the darkness would take her next. But she had to embrace the unknown, or risk losing everything. And as she took a trembling step forward, the fickle light of the stone dimming at the edges, something deeper stirred within the shadows. Waiting patiently, a choice had to be made. But what lay beyond the veil of darkness? The darkness shifted, a swirling mass that surged with a life of its own. Sarah's heart pounded against her ribs. The words echoed in her mind, taunting her. Choose now or lose all forever. The nursery morphed around her, crayon drawings melting into grotesque shapes, the cheerful colors warping into shades of gray. A fleeting image of Mia and Ben racing through the backyard flashed before her, their laughter like sweet music, but it was quickly swept away, drowned in the oppressive gloom. Mia, she shouted, desperation coating her voice. Breathe, baby. I'm right here. She felt her own breath quaking, each inhale choked by that terrible stench, the grave, cold and unforgiving. Mom, Mia's voice grew weaker, fading against the cacophony of shadows clawing at her sanity, urging her to decide. Don't let them take me. Sarah felt a tug from within, a gnawing urge to reach out to her daughter. What would she do if it came down to it? The mere thought threatened to shatter her composure. Don't let fear control you. The stone pulsed in her grasp, its light a fragile beacon in the churning void. Embrace your power. The shadows hissed, their fanged faces twisting into grotesque grins. Power? One crooned. You think you can resist? We are all you fear. We know the darkness that hides in your heart. Shut up, she yelled, clenching her teeth, pushing against that malevolent force. The light flickered as they laughed, a chorus of cold, disembodied voices. Make your choice, Sarah. Only then can you save one. Images erupted in her mind, visions of Ben and Mia, trapped in those ghastly realms, screaming, struggling. A vision of herself, alone, hollowed out by loss. Clarity pierced through the terror for a moment, igniting a surge of anger. With renewed strength, she shouted back, I won't let you take them. I refuse to play your game. The walls of the nursery trembled violently, shadows recoiling momentarily, but then surged forward like an avalanche, hungry to swallow her resolve. Ben clutched her leg tighter, eyes wide with terror. Mom. Ben, you stay close. She cast a glance down to him, forcing herself to convey confidence she didn't possess. The stone shone brighter, a defiant flash against the looming darkness. As the shadows clawed at her, a flicker of understanding ignited. I'm not just a mother. I'm their protector. Sarah cried, leaning into the light. You don't control my choices. I choose love. I choose strength. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of outrage reverberating within her soul. The air crackled, thick like static, stirring a tempest. The stone flared, its brilliance pushing outwards, burning bright and hot like a star reborn. Just then, a rift opened in the chaos. A cold wind howled through, howling with a voice that sounded disturbingly familiar, a whisper that turned her blood to ice. You're not strong enough, Sarah. You've forgotten your true power. Who are you? She shouted, but she felt it deep inside, a looming dread. I'm everything you suppressed to be a mother. The air shattered, splintering the world around her into shards of memory. A moment in time unfurled a glimpse of a woman standing, glowing, with blazing eyes filled with fury. Sarah stumbled. The sight rocked her. Who was she, really? Beneath the layers of motherly love, was there something darker? A scream echoed around her. Was it Mia? The shadows coiled tighter, eager to devour her confusion, dragging her deeper into despair. No, I won't let this take me, she cried, but the sinister voice slithered through again, soft yet menacing. What will you sacrifice to save your children, Sarah? Her mind raced, decisions crashing down like waves. Sacrifice, it felt like she was teetering on the edge of reality and madness, poised to plunge into the depths of the unknown. The rift flickered, a fleeting promise of escape, but would it lead her to salvation or doom? Shadows gathered, hungry for her indecision. The choice lurked beneath her skin, palpable and pulsing. As the light said its last goodbye and she felt the world splinter, what horrifying truth awaited her? Behind the veil of darkness? The rift pulsed in front of her, a disorienting whirlpool of shadow and light. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to leap into the unknown, to fight for her children. But the words lingered in the air, heavy with dread. What will you sacrifice? A cold sweat broke out across her forehead. Ben's trembling grip tightened around her leg, and she felt Mia's presence wane, slipping like sand through her fingers. Mom. Mia's voice was barely a whisper now, a fragile thread in the chaos. Stay with me, Sarah shouted, her voice raw, splintering with panic. The shadows laughed, a sickening sound that reverberated through her bones, mocking her desperation. With each shove of darkness, Sarah's heart raced faster. How could she protect them if fear threatened to consume her? Make your choice, Sarah, the vile chorus urged, the shadows stirring with glee. What did they want from her? As if sensing her confusion, they surged forward, each tendril whispering her deepest fears. You think you made them strong by raising them? You think your love is enough? They crescendoed into groans, the primordial sound of nightmares washing over her. Suddenly, with a shocking intensity, memories erupted in fragments around her, a child crying alone in the dark, her own wails failing to comfort them. Each flash was poison, each echo a reminder that darkness was waiting to pounce. I won't let you take my children, Sarah screamed, clutching the stone like a lifeline. You will not shatter my family. The energy pulsed wildly, and for a moment, the shadows paused, flickering like candle flames caught in a gust of wind. Perhaps her defiance had power. Perhaps she could become the storm instead of a victim. But then the shadows snarled, gathering new strength. What will you offer, Sarah? Blood? Surrender? All you cherish? The air thickened with malice. You wish for guardianship? Then prove it. Choose one. Mom, I don't want to choose. Ben pleaded, his voice rising in pitch. What if they take you? Terror clawed at her insides, a strangling vice. What if she failed? What if she didn't choose? A choice had to be made, but the gravity of each option suffocated her, igniting a vision of her sweet children swallowed by the void. Choose. The shadows screamed in unison, their faces twisting, mouths gaping as if to consume her whole. With a surge of desperation, Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing. I'll choose. She gasped, throat dry. I choose to give you nothing. I embrace my strength. The shadows recoiled, screeching with rage as the stone blazed violently in her palm. But within that light, a figure emerged, a woman, her own face transformed by fire and fate, eyes blazing with primal intensity. Embrace me, Sarah, the vision whispered, a soothing yet fierce sound next to the biting chaos. You are? Sarah staggered, her breath catching. I am what you wield, what you fear, your true potential. The flame-wrought woman stepped closer, merging her power with Sarah's thin resolve. And just like that, Sarah felt a rush of energy, a bond stronger than blood coursing through her. She was not alone. Then, the world trembled beneath her feet as the shadows converged, furious and shrouded in darkness. You've chosen defiance, but at what cost? A cavernous roar echoed in the distance, shaking the very ground. Wind swirled violently, casting an ink-black shadow over everything, darting past her like death itself. Would her defiance lead to salvation or despair? As the shadows lunged, reaching for her, Sarah faced the dread-filled void. What did I unleash? She whispered. The tension tightened in her chest, and questions loomed large. How much of herself could she bear to give without losing her mind? In that heavy moment, a feeling flared within her, a flicker of dread and power. What would be the price for her children's safety? And would she dare uncover the depths of her own darkness to save them? The echoes of the past aligned, and from the eye of the storm, ominous laughter thrummed throughout, unveiling a truth that lay ahead, daring her to turn back. Would she face her greatest fear or succumb to the shadows? The darkness fell around them again, closer now, suffocating. A chilling whisper curled around her heart. Welcome to your reckoning. The air crackled with an invisible force, a palpable tension that twisted Sarah's stomach. The shadows, angry and relentless, lunged once more. She felt their frigid breath against her skin, the urge to surrender gnawing at her resolve. But the blazing vision of the woman beside her anchored her in the swirling chaos. Remember, Sarah, the spectral figure urged, her voice a comforting hum against the tempest. Strength comes from within. The shadows fear your light. Use it. Light. Sarah repeated, the word a mantra in her mind. Something buried deep within her stirred, a flicker of hope sharpened by fear. Could it be enough? Could she harness this spark and truly confront the darkness? The shadows hissed, sensing her hesitation. You think you possess strength? It is merely the guise of bravery, a mask to hide your cowardice. What if your children become the price for your defiance? Ben's grip tightened around her leg, and his small shivers radiated despair. Mom, please, don't think about that. Sarah cried out, desperation filling her voice. We fight together. She raised the pulsating stone, feeling its heat sear her palm. The shadows recoiled, shrieking, their forms twisting with rage. What can you wield against us? Their snarls echoed. You are but a woman, a mother, weak and frail. Alone, you are nothing. But in that instant, the words stung. Pain radiated from memories too painful to bear. Moments of assailing doubt resurfaced, drowning her in shame. Could she truly protect her children? Would her love be enough to shield them from a destiny darker than death? Shut up, she screamed, her voice raw and fierce. I'm not weak. With every ounce of conviction, she concentrated on the warmth of the stone, channeling her will into a light that tangled with the shadows. The pulsating glow illuminated the encroaching darkness, forcing it to retreat. The shadows flickered, flailing, as if the light was a tide washing over them. But then, from the depths of the rift, a grotesque figure emerged, contorted and monstrous. You dare defy us? It hissed, teeth glistening like polished knives. We are the harbingers of your greatest fears. A horrific laughter bubbled up from the shadows surrounding this abomination, echoing like broken glass. Look at what you've awakened, Sarah. Your denial only drew us closer. Sweat dripped down her forehead. No, I didn't mean to what? The figure taunted, its voice dripping with glee. You opened the door. You invited us here. Do you truly think you can expel us? What will you offer? What will you sacrifice? The darkness cackled, multiplying like shadows at dusk. They reached toward her and her children, swirling like malevolent specters. In a fleeting moment of clarity, Sarah realized that surrendering was not the path facing the truth was. I wouldn't trade my soul for theirs. I would burn everything before I let you take them. A sudden silence fell, thick and pressing. Even the howling wind seemed to still, as if the world held its breath. The shadows halted, their shapes faltering, as if confused. Such passion, the figure whispered, eyes narrowing. But passion without sacrifice is merely a spark. You want them to live? Then you must be ready to destroy. The chanting shadows surged again with intent, swirling ferociously, doubling down in their demands. Choose your child, Sarah. One must fall for the other to rise. Her heart seized. No, no one dies. I want to choose. A blinding light erupted from the stone, briefly scattering the darkness. She could see Mia, pale and frightened, behind the veil, and Ben crying and clutching his scarf. But as the light dimmed, the silhouette of the monstrous figure stepped closer, grinning with malice. You think you can protect them unconditionally? We shall see. What is an eternity of suffering against a single sacrifice? A single sacrifice, the thought echoed, reverberating into her mind's darkest corners. As dread washed over her, reality twisted like a knife in her gut. Suddenly, the vision of the flame-wrought woman appeared between her and the rift, shielding her from the chaos. You must face your truth, Sarah, she urged, voice fierce yet warm. Odds are against you, but I am with you. Fight, not just for your children, but for the very essence of your being. The shadows cackled menacingly, circling closer, hungry for despair. Sarah's chest tightened. Would she bow to the price the darkness demanded? Or could she weave her defiance into strength, ready to confront whatever truth lay ahead? And then, amid the mounting chaos, the whispers faded, replaced with a single haunting question that pierced the night. What part of your soul will you unleash to sever this bond? As the darkness inched closer, the weight of her heart threatened to crush her, but the uncertain flicker of hope glimmered amidst the despair. How far could she go to save her children? The shadows had only begun to reveal their sinister intent. With a whisper echoing in her ear, she braced herself. What if I unleashed something greater? The darkness clung to Sarah like a heavy fog, wrapping around her heart, squeezing tight. She could feel the weight of the figure's words as if they were chains, binding her to her fears. Every breath felt labored, and the shadows shifted closer, their cries growing louder and more frantic. The air was thick, vibrating with malevolence, yet she could still feel the ghostly warmth of the woman by her side. Focus, Sarah, the specter urged, her cadence steadying as her form flickered like a candle in the wind. Reach deep inside. What do you truly fear? Fear, Sarah whispered, understanding painting the word with bitter clarity. What did she fear the most? Losing her children? The echoes of laughter from a time that felt so distant? Or perhaps facing the very darkness that haunted her own past? The monstrous figure crept closer, its grotesque body writhing and twisting in the air like a serpent. Ah, the denial returns, it taunted, voice slithering through the air. Face it, you think you've concealed your weaknesses, but we know your truths. Your fears scream louder than you can imagine. Stop it, she shouted, desperation in her voice. But the shadows laughed, a chilling chorus that echoed through her bones, igniting the cold fire of terror. You wish to shield them? But look at their fear. Where do you think it comes from? The creature hissed. You carry that fear like a shroud. It clings to you, fed by your failures. Ben whimpered. Mom, no. No. Sarah cried, shaking her head viciously, willing the shadows to back away. This isn't my fault. They're just trying to confuse me. Are we? The creature leaned in, its breath icy against her skin. What if we told you that choice is an illusion? You cannot save them without staining your soul. The words dropped like stones in her stomach. What do you want from me? She didn't want to choose. You think I would destroy one for the other? I want. The shadows shifted uneasily, their squirming forms reflecting her inner turmoil. You are torn, Sarah. You want to save them, but your heart is shackled by cowardice. Show us your true self. The light from the stone dimmed once more, the monstrous figure leaning in, its dark form blotting out the ghostly woman. Unleash your fear, mother. Let it consume you, and perhaps then we'll grant your children safety. With renewed fury, Sarah shook her head violently. No, I'd rather face this darkness myself than sacrifice one of my kids. The words hung in the air, heavy with defiance. Bravery? How quaint. The creature cackled. You say you want to choose? Then we'll choose for you. How does it feel knowing you must pay a toll? The swirling darkness coalesced, taking on grotesque shapes that reminded Sarah of nightmares she'd long thought buried. A child lost in the woods, her parents turned away, a figure tearing through photos of happier times. The images thrust forward, sharp as blades, twisting deeper into her heart. Mia? The breath hitched in Sarah's throat as she recognized her daughter's face among the phantoms, filled with confusion, fear, and a silent plea. Ben, join us. The monstrous voice whispered silken and slick, seducing her with promises of power. We can give you what you truly desire, the strength to protect them, but will you dare face the truth behind your hidden despair? The spectral woman interposed again, her form dim but resolute. Do not give in. Speak your truth, Sarah. Make them understand. The shadows swirled and shrieked, igniting the air with chaos as Sarah's vision blurred. You want me to fear? Fine. I fear losing them, but I also fear becoming what you are. Then embrace that fear. The creature hissed venomously, and lay waste to what you hold dear. Another wave washed over her, feelings colliding within as the eerie silence returned, dragging out the moment toward a climax. No, I will not. Her heart thundered in her chest, determination and dread blending like oil and water. But just as she steadied herself for the battle of her life, a sudden crack split the air, a violent rip through the fabric of the world. Light erupted from the stone, illuminating the scene, if only for an instant. Beneath this chaos lies the truth. Do you dare uncover it? The shadows hissed, and in that blinding moment, amid the shifting darkness and the tenebrous laughter, came a new whisper, chilling the bone. What are you willing to lose to hold on to what is left? As the shadows writhed and screeched, Sarah felt the weight of an unimaginable choice looming over her, a choice that would redefine everything she ever believed about courage and sacrifice. She grit her teeth, heart pounding, clawing for a glimpse of hope, but the night only deepened, and she faced a truth far more terrifying than she could have ever foreseen. What part of her soul would she dare unleash to shatter the darkness? The shadows awaited her answer, eager, hungry, relentless. With a blinding flash, the darkness surged forward, a wave of malice intent on swallowing her whole. The air snapped and crackled as Sarah felt the pulsating energy of the stone in her hand, its warmth fighting against the cold dread tightening around her heart. Enough, she screamed, her voice melding with a whirlwind of emotion. The monstrous figure staggered, halted by the force of her command. Shadows writhed, whispering veiled threats like an audience hungry for despair. I won't hide from you anymore, she vowed, summoning courage she didn't know she had. The vision of her children flooded her mind, their faces flickering in the depths of her fears, a reminder of everything she was fighting for. Face your fears, the spectral woman urged, standing resolutely by her side. The shadows balked, coiling away from the renewed blaze within Sarah. I fear losing them, she shouted, her determination swelling like a tide. But I fear more who I'd become if I let you take even a piece of my heart. Heart. The creature sneered, contorting into a shape that flickered between terror and familiarity. How romantic. But tell me, mother, what happens when your heart is shattered? Images of her past crushed dreams, moments of weakness flooded her senses, threatening to pull her under. Shut up. You don't control me. Her voice echoed through the swirling mass, and she tightened her grip around the stone, feeling its power surge in response to her defiance. Light burst forth, cascading from the stone like a beacon in the dark, illuminating the room in radiant hues that pushed back against the shadows clawing at her. The monstrous figure howled, flinging itself backward, shrieking curses that fell upon deaf ears. Sarah, emboldened by the pulse of the light, stepped forward, fueled by a fierce energy that filled her chest like wildfire. "You're nothing but fragments of fear," she declared, and with each word, she reclaimed a sliver of her power. "I sacrifice my shame, my doubt, my fear of losing them. I embrace every part of me." The shadows shrieked in rage, their forms twisting violently, morphing into grotesque faces of her past. Each face whispered toxic reminders, trying to pull her back into the depths. "Look around you," they jeered. "You are just a mother, fragile and alone." No. Her defiance burned brighter than the shadow's intentions. "I am fierce. I have strength I'll fight for. I would burn the world down to protect my children." The monstrous figure recoiled in alarm, the confusion sharp upon its twisted visage, feeding on her unveiled strength. "Your children's safety is not free," it screeched, voice flaring with desperation. "Choose one to sacrifice." The world spun, shadows converging, but Sarah stood steady. "I refuse to choose. My love is an unyielding fire that cannot be extinguished." The spectral woman beside her glanced at the chaos, then back at Sarah. "You wield more than love. Embrace your true potential." With a surge of power, Sarah balanced the stone at her chest. "Yes, I see it now. My past, my pain, they make me whole. You can't corrupt me." As the shadows lunged once more, her voice rose like a storm, fierce and unyielding. "I break you." The light flared, brighter than before, consuming the darkness in its wake, creating a sphere of blinding radiance that echoed with the cries of defiance. The rift in the shadows distorted, folding in upon itself. The creature howled fiercely, its form splintering into shards of darkness, unable to withstand Sarah's unleashed power. "You will pay for this." But Sarah didn't falter. She could feel it, a warmth spreading through her heart, an unbreakable resolve. "No, this ends today." With her children etched in her mind, she thrust the stone forward, the luminous force breaking free, washing over the shadows, incinerating the dark specters with an intensity that sent them reeling. "Say goodbye," Sarah shouted, her heart roaring with victory as the light washed over them. The air thrummed with energy, and in that singular moment, she felt the vastness of her choice, the weight not of sacrifice, but of strength. And then silence. A deafening stillness enveloped the nursery. The shadows, once so relentless, had retreated, unraveling into harmless wisps of dark smoke that dissipated under the brilliant light. Her breath came heavy, the adrenaline fading as she looked around. The nursery now untouched, the pale light illuminating every corner brightly. "Mia, Ben." "Mom." Ben's voice wavered, his small figure standing frozen by the door, eyes wide with both fear and relief. "Mia." Sarah rushed to her baby's crib, heart pounding. There she was, innocent and sleepy, the darkness around her dissipated, memories of terror melting away like fog in the morning sun. With trembling hands, she lifted Mia into her arms, cradling her close, feeling the warmth of her little body against her chest. Tears of relief streamed down her cheeks as she turned back to Ben, who rushed into her embrace. "Mom, you did it!" he exclaimed, voice bursting with joy and wonder. "I did, sweetheart," she replied, voice thick with emotion. "Together, we did." In that moment of tenderness, darkness fell away, revealing the light of what family meant, unyielding, fierce, and unwavering in the face of adversity. As they huddled together, Sarah knew the shadows would never fully disappear. But their light, their love, would write a story far brighter than any darkness could ever extinguish. And when the weight of the experience finally lifted, leaving an ache of bittersweet clarity, Sarah understood what lay ahead wouldn't be void of fear, but filled with lessons learned, a promise of protection, and above all, unbreakable bonds. "Let us go home," she whispered, her heart finally at ease as they exited the nursery together. The stone pulsed once, a gentle reminder of the journey that shaped them. They would face whatever came next, but now, embracing every piece of their truth, they do it together. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure you stay tuned. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for the channel and keep the stories coming.